Hi everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca, Stu, and the Crew. I'm Rebecca, and today we have some more spring Dollar Tree home decor ideas, some really fun DIYs. So I want to go over the supplies for our first two projects. We'll be using these 4x6 frames that come in these really cute stands in either white or black. Also one of these glass jars, some miniature flowers of your choice. We're going to need some twine or ribbon. Also, we'll be using some Spanish moss to fill the jar. And we'll use some window clings. We could also use the Wall Street Creation stickers that Dollar Tree sells, or even these booklets of planner stickers have some large window cling style stickers that we can use in this project also. If you have a Cricut, that would be great. You could also cut out your own saying to use in the picture. We're going to need some scissors, a razor blade, paint, paintbrush, hot glue, and some Mod Podge. So let's get crafty with our first two projects here. So for the first two, we're going to remove the frames from the base, and we'll remove that piece of paper from the center. And then for our very first picture, we're going to choose these flowers that come on the window cling sheet. One sheet is enough to do two full pictures here, which is what we're going to end up doing. What I'm doing with the razor blade is I'm just cutting off that excess background between the pieces of the greenery and the flower. There were some larger pieces of background, and since it wasn't completely white, it had a little bit more of like an off-white background between the pieces. I didn't want too large of pieces of that border to be there, so we're just going to cut some of that off and help to disguise it a little bit. We're going to paint behind this, so it's going to hide a lot of it, but just in case, we didn't want it to be too visible, so we definitely want to trim around the flower. So now all I'm doing is I'm layering the flower in the corner, and as you can see, I have some of the greenery and flowers that are hanging off on the bottom edge. That's okay. What we're going to do is just trim that off with our razor blade. But hold on to those extra leaves and flowers that you trim around the edge, because we can use these to layer some more of the window clings around the border and to really help fill in that whole bottom edge or just up around the corner in a decorative fashion. So I always hold on to the extra pieces until I'm sure I have it completely filled in the way I would like it to be. And then if I have any excess, I'll discard of those pieces. But as you can see, we're definitely going to use them in this project here. So now for the top corner, we're going to put another window cling sticker on, and then we'll trim off the border. Now that top edge has a rounded top, so I found it easier to flip the picture over and cut the window cling from the back. It was easier to get a lot closer to the edge and have a nicer border there without any excess hanging off the top portion. Now we're going to take those pieces that we cut earlier, and we're going to just keep layering the extra window cling pieces along the border. And then if you want to, once this part's done, you can add Mod Podge to the whole front here, and it'll dry clear. You won't really have to worry too much about, having like a weird film on it or anything like that. But I never add extra Mod Podge when I'm doing these little plastic pieces, especially if I'm layering any kind of vinyl or sticker over top of it. That seems to help hold it down. So it's really up to you if you want to do that. So again, you can use these planner stickers that come in these booklets if you can find them. You could also use the Dollar Tree like alphabet stickers, or you can use some vinyl to cut out a saying. I chose to use the saying, "Live life in full bloom," using the vinyl. And I'm using some clear contact paper as a carrier sheet. So I'm going to lift the saying off of the paper, and it'll be all in one piece. And then I can move this to the frame and not worry about having to try to piece all of those pieces back together and get all the letters in the right position with the right spacing. So you could actually use this contact paper if you're using the alphabet stickers. You can do the same process to fill out your saying. Now taking that original paper that came with it, I'm just marking the center by folding it in half, and that'll help me line up the saying in the center of the frame here. And once I have it centered, I'm just going to stick that down onto the frame here. Just go slowly. If any of the letters start to lift up, you can correct them before it gets messed up. You just want to go slow and keep your eye on the lettering and the background flowers to make sure nothing is lifting up. And as you can see, I had a little bit of pieces lift up, so I went around and I just smoothed it out and make sure there are no bubbles or anything underneath. But again, if you use the alphabet stickers to do a saying like live life in full bloom, you could use that contact paper and spell it all out and then help you be able to transfer it to your frame in one step. It makes it a lot easier. So now we're going to flip the whole frame over and we are going to paint the back with just some paint streaks. The reason I did the whole design on the front before I painted it was I wanted to make sure that I got the paint just past the lettering, but not too far to the edges. And I really wasn't sure how much of the paint I was going to need to go all the way, past the wording. It was just kind of hard to tell with the sizing. And I really wanted to make sure that the paint would reach all the way past the lettering, but not all the way to the edges. And so I just checked the front, make sure all of it is, filled in there, but I have a nice space around the edges so you still get that streaked paint look. And then I do 2 very thin coats just to make sure you can't see through the paint. I don't want to be able to see all the way through it in the center. So any spaces it looked like it needed a little bit more paint, I went back over it, but you just want to do a very small amount. And what's nice about this is if you put too much paint on and you don't think it looks right, you could take a wet wipe or a wet paper towel and you could wipe this off fairly quickly and be able to repeat the process and just kind of start over if you don't wait too long. So now while that's drying, we're going to make our little vase here. We're going to take that small jar, take the lid off, and then we're going to fill it with some of the Spanish moss. And I'm just using a dowel rod to help force the Spanish moss down into the glass jar to make it look like a little vase that had some Spanish moss filled in, like some plant roots or something it kind of looks like. And I thought that looked nice together. Then I cut the small flowers down to different lengths and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue and then put them down into the jar and it will stick to that Spanish moss that I have stuffed in there pretty tight. And it'll help hold those flowers in place. And that tiny little bit of glue will help so that the flowers don't come out over time. And I'm just going to do about 3 or 4 of these small pink flowers and then 1 of the small white flowers. But again, it's just personal preference how you want to decorate your little vase, or if you want to put one on at all. You really don't have to add a vase to the side. I just thought with the saying on the frame that living life in full bloom, that a little vase of flowers attached to it would be a real cute idea to kind of tie it all together. So then I have some twine and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue around the top portion of the jar, and this will hide the little grooves that you use to attach the lid and make it look more like a vase and less like a jar. So we're just going to wrap the twine around a few times, and of course my cat is helping me out as usual. And we are going to just glue down that little bit of twine on the end after we cut off the excess. And that's all we're going to do for this little vase. And now we're going to go ahead and Mod Podge over top of the paint that we did a few minutes ago just to seal the back. So this paint is just acrylic, and I was afraid if anybody bumped it or it got moved too suddenly that maybe they would scratch the paint off the back, because it is just on that plastic frame, and I was afraid it would get chipped off. So we're just going to seal the back with the Mod Podge, and then once it dries, as you could see, it dries clear. You're not going to be able to see any frosting or anything like that, so you could definitely Mod Podge the front as well. And now we're going to slide the picture down into the base and add a little bit of hot glue to the side of the base, and we'll take our miniature flower vase and we're going to glue it right to the side, and then we'll set it down on the table to make sure it's level and that it will sit nice and flat. So we want that bottom edge of the vase along the bottom edge so it sits nice and flat on the table, and just hold it in place for a few seconds till it dries. And that's our first little picture all done. The fun little addition. It can pretty much go anywhere. So now for the second project, we're using almost all the same supplies. So I actually cut out the flowers on the frame, or I'm sorry, the wreath that said Happy Easter on that window cling sheet, and some of the leaves that were around the edges. And then we're going to kind of figure out the design before we stick it all down. I was just kind of playing with it a little bit and trying to decide what design I wanted this to be. And instead of using the like planner stickers or alphabet letters at Dollar Tree sells, I cut another saying out from the Cricut. And before we start sticking everything on, again, we're going to find the center and just mark it with a little tiny dot. And this will help us line up the wording. And again, we've got the letters on that carrier sheet, which is the clear contact paper. And that will help us center it and get all of our words on without having to fuss with the spacing at all. Fix any bubbles that you might have created. And then at first I kind of layered the window clings and the bunny a little bit different. I wanted him to kind of look like he was sitting in the flowers. So I started it out with the bunny in front of the flowers here. And then the second set of flowers I'll put in front of him on the opposite side, as you'll see here in just a second. And then I ended up changing it. I really didn't like the way it looked. So I ended up changing it so all of the flowers were behind the bunny and then he was sitting in the front. So sometimes your first, even though I tried it out at first to see what it would look like, once it was stuck down, I really didn't like it like this, so I just changed it. And it was pretty easy to lift it up and switch the flowers around. And again, if you have any flowers that hang over the side, just go ahead and trim those off with the razor blade. And then I took some of those little leaves that were on the wreath from the window cling. I fill in some of the spaces down here at the bottom. And then I only had one small set of flowers left that was on the sheet of window clings, and that was connected to like an Easter egg, and it looked a little bit hard to cut out, so I went ahead and used a different sheet of wall creation stickers with some flowers that coordinate, and I cut out a few flowers off of the background here and just kind of cut them down to size and added a few of these pink flowers to the front. And this helped to get that kind of layering effect that I wanted with the flowers to make him look like he was sitting back in this little bunch of flowers here, like in some tall grass. And I just thought that looked a lot better with that layering. I kind of got that look that I was going for, and I still have a lot of the flowers behind him, which just made it look a little bit more balanced. So I took some of the real tiny pink flowers and I added those to the top to tie in that peach kind of pink flower from the bottom. I tie that color scheme in by adding these smaller pink flowers up higher in some of those flowers there. It just helps tie it all together. And then we'll flip it over and I mix some white paint with a little bit of pink to get this very pale pink color, and we'll just do the paint streaks the same way we did with the last one. And then when you're all done and it's completely dry, go ahead and seal it with your Mod Podge if you like. And for this one, we're not going to add anything else to it. I thought there was so much going on with the frame that I really didn't want to add too much to it and make it too busy. So we're just going to slide this down into the frame once it's been sealed with the Mod Podge and just leave this one as is. So that's our second picture done. For the third one, we're going to use a few different supplies, so we'll go over those first. We're going to use this 5x7 frame from Dollar Tree, the scissors, the razor blade, some paint, and a paintbrush, and then we'll use these wall creation stickers. And you could either use the planner stickers, or again, you could use vinyl and a Cricut, or some alphabet letters from the Dollar Tree that come on those sticker sheets. So let's get crafty. We're going to remove this picture holder that's on the back. It's just paper and it's attached with some double-sided sticky tape. I removed most of that with a razor blade, and then I used some sage green paint, and we're just going to do the paint streaks, but we're going to try to keep it right in between that black frame that's painted on the center of the larger frame. Then you can take a wet wipe and just clean up any paint along the edges that went a little bit too far. And again, if you add too much paint, go ahead and remove some of it with a wet paper towel. So then we're going to take the wall creation stickers and we're going to start layering these in the top right and the bottom left corner, right around the edge of the inside frame and the outside frame where that open glass portion is. Now, of course, the paint's on the back and we're putting the window cling stickers, we're putting those on the front of the frame. And we're just cutting out these leaves, and you can cut around them to remove any of like the yellow flowers that kind of pop up in the background. I didn't want any of the yellow on this frame. I wanted to stick to just the green color scheme. And I cut out a bunch of different leaves and I play with it a little bit to see where I want them to be. What's nice about the window cling stickers is you don't have to commit. They're very easy to lift off once you've placed them down. And you can move them, but the wonderful part is you don't really have to worry about them peeling up or coming off. They stick so well. So once I have all those leaves layered, I used one of the planner stickers for the center. Now this one was a little bit small for this frame, but I did put it on so I could show you guys how well it works in the frame. They do sell these frames smaller, and I think it would work better for the smaller frame. So I took a picture of it with this one, and then I went ahead and cut out the same saying, just a little bit larger with my Cricut. And I just feel like it filled the space in a little bit better. But again, if you can find the smaller frames, those window stickers from the planner would actually work perfect for these smaller frames that they sell that are exactly like this. I think they hold like a 3x5 inch picture in the center, so it would work a lot better for that. But I felt like it needed a little bit bigger of a saying in the center for this one. And again, that's just right on top in the center. So it's very simple. It just took a few minutes to put it together. Really, all of these just took a few minutes. The drying time for the background really didn't take a long time, and neither did the Mod Podge, because we're really just putting a really thin layer of the Mod Podge on the background. So these are just some really easy pictures, some craft ideas that you could make for your home. They're quick and easy, and any skill level would be able to complete these. So I hope it will encourage you to try some crafting. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And here are some other videos from our channel you might also enjoy. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.